Well, hello and welcome to the Cardiac Cats YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jacob Shorba, and right now you will probably witness one of the only times in my life where I will ever be upset about the Jacksonville Jaguars being the Tennessee Titans. Doesn't show that it's official here, but this game was over. Titans turn it over on downs, and Jacksonville is going to win this 10-6. I'm kind of shocked they did. Honestly, they were getting destroyed on offense the whole game. Didn't score until the fourth quarter, but this is what happens when you have this many easy opponents at the end of the season. No matter how bad you think your team is, you can just walk into a win like this. And so, yeah, it's really unfortunate. In I don't know. It's weird to say that winning against a division rival, right? But obviously, when we're talking about tanking and the whole point of it, you want to have a big reward coming out of that. And this year you have that in a player like Travis Hunter. Or even if you didn't want Travis Hunter, there goes final. Um, it could be trading back from number one, right? There's a lot of things that Jacksonville could do with that. And, unfortunately now that's probably off the table considering where the draft order is. We'll see if Tankathon. Yep, Tankathon has updated. So here's your problem. So right off the bat, Tennessee, I don't know why they're not above Jacksonville. They should be. Maybe the tiebreakers work kind of weird here. But New England is going to pick above Jacksonville unless they are able to win a game at the end of the season. And I just don't think they will. You can look at their schedule. Maybe they could beat Arizona, but they play the Bills twice. And I believe they play like Miami. Might be a different team. I might be wrong on that. But it is not an easy schedule for New England. They have their quarterback. They're not going to be drafting one. And you're going to be in a situation where I just don't think it's going to happen for Jacksonville to be the first non-quarterback team, right? So that's kind of unfortunate, right? I'm sure there will be a lot of different opinions on that because I completely understand people who are excited that we beat the Tennessee Titans, right? That part's great. I understand people who are frustrated though about losing the draft order because, it sucks. But all right, we'll stop rambling about that because we gotta talk about this game a little bit. Just kind of a wild game, to be honest. Very disappointing, I think, for both sides early on. Not a whole lot of offense, not a lot of successful plays. You had Tennessee go up 3-0, which was the score for a lot of this. Had a shot to get a touchdown or kick a field goal or something. They go for it, end up missing, which ultimately is the reason why they lost this game. Because if they had that field goal, they could have kicked the field goal instead of going for it again at the end and not getting it. So that's on them, right? But that's what happened for Tennessee. On Jacksonville's side of things, you had some really ridiculous, boneheaded plays. You had a Brian Thomas Jr. like hold or something. I can't remember specifically what the penalty was, but it took him out of field goal range. And then Mac Jones, gonna get sacked, decides to throw it up and throws a pick, which, to be fair, really didn't end up mattering because he already got knocked out of field goal range with, I think there was 1 second left on the clock at that point. So you could have had a Hail Mary opportunity, perhaps. But that's just kind of how things were on offense. A lot of obnoxiousness, a lot of poor play, and then towards the end of the game, the offense started to play fine. Started to get things going, and you had the field goal to get on the board, and you had a touchdown drive that kind of came out of nowhere. But every game it seems like we have this big Brian Thomas Jr. catch, or even two of them sometimes. And that's kind of what started happening late when the team decided, oh yeah, we drafted this guy for a reason. Maybe we should give him the ball. Crazy how that works, right? But yeah, so Jacksonville, takes the lead late in this one, ends up holding on. Talking about some individual performances, this is all second half yards by Brian Thomas Jr., so pretty impressive by him regarding that. Mac Jones, a weird day, right? You got 2 picks, both of them really bad plays, but overall, like, decent production, pretty accurate throughout the day. looking at Tank Bigsby, getting the vast majority of the carries, this is actually kind of crazy to look at, to be honest. Really brings into question why they didn't move on from Travis Etienne at the trade deadline. But yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, guys. While I'm recording this, I'm watching Bryce Young drive down the field against Philadelphia, so I'm a little distracted as I'm doing this. But they just got to like the 1 yard line. Jarion Jones. We'll talk about him for a second. Phenomenal game from him. He had a sack. Looked like he was Abdul Carter on the field for one play, just flying around the edge. Great play, great in coverage. It felt like every cornerback on this team managed to get a play on Calvin Ridley where they knocked the ball out. I think Monteric had one, Tyson had one, and then you had Jarion with a play like that. So really good stuff though from Jarion. Andre Cisco had a nice blocked, or what do we call it, pass breakup in the end zone, which was the big reason why the Titans lost, because they gave up points on that drive, which forced them to give up points later when they could have kicked the field goal to take the lead if they had the points from earlier. But yeah, aside from that, it's kind of hard to note a whole lot about this game. It was a pretty disappointing game from Jacksonville, but ultimately, you play well enough at the end to win. And now we'll probably hear all week long, at what cost, right? There'll be people who will be excited. There'll be people who are pissed. I honestly will probably find myself in the later camp. I think that at this point, with where things were going and this season being done, I would have just preferred for them to lose out, make it easier to move on from everyone, have a more appealing job, have the first overall pick, and be able to do a lot with that. But, we're in the situation we're in right now. Looking at the Titans, Will Levis, not really that great of a day. He was awful at the end of that game. Couldn't hit anything. Tony Pollard, really good day on the ground. We were kind of struggling in the run game early on. We didn't get much on the ground. And then you look at the Tennessee Titans, they were just running it down Jacksonville's throat at the start of this thing. So, it's kind of I don't know. I think it's the worst result you could have had, right? It's not like I'm coming out of this game super excited about a lot of players because of how they performed. I think Jarion Jones is a fair one, right? I'm excited for him. I wonder actually what his grade was in this game. Cole Van Landen also played pretty well. That's worth noting. Let's see. Jarion actually only got a 66. That's kind of shocking. But Joshua Hines-Allen, he had a pretty big hit on Will Levis at the end of the second quarter. That was pretty fun to see. But overall, just like we said, good day from the cornerbacks. Devin Lloyd, again, just having high PFF grades every week. Look at this crap. This is ridiculous from him. That's been overlooked too much this season, I feel like. But yeah, I think that's probably all I've got to note here. There's not a whole lot else to talk about. The big conversation is, what do you do with the draft order now? We'll take one more look at that just to kind of explain where things are, where they might fall. You're a part of a large group of teams now that have 3 wins. So right now, I don't think the Giants, oh man, they might win. They're down 3 to the Saints. You guys will know by the time this goes up. So maybe the Giants win. The Raiders will play Jacksonville again. That's going to be a really big game. If Jacksonville loses that, then they might still have a shot at the number 1 pick. The big problem, obviously, is the New England Patriots, because they probably won't win again. They're going to have the tiebreaker over you, and you have an easier schedule than them. So I don't think they're getting it just because of that. Tennessee depends on the last game we have against them, most likely. Carolina, I think since I looked away, they got screwed or something happened, because they were really far backed up. So they're probably still going to have 3 wins. The Jets, they're tied right now. This could go either way. Cleveland, I think, lost pretty big today. So you're just in this big group of teams, right? And I really don't know where they're going to fall, but it really changes how you're looking at things now, because you're not getting Travis Hunter unless you're trading up. most likely. And beyond that, maybe now you got to look at it and say, hey, Will Johnson, right? Cornerback's a huge need for this team. I know obviously they had a great day today, but you want to get a guy with Campbell. You could argue, and this is what I would argue personally. I'd be arguing for Abdul Carter. I don't care that we have two starting edge rushers who are really good. I think you can add to that, and I think the value of him as a player is immense. So he's someone that I would absolutely be in on. And then aside from that, Ashton Genty, if you fall far enough down the board, I think you at least got to think about it. It's harder to sell just because it's a running back, right? And this is the bad team, but I think it's at least worth the conversation. Obviously, though, it really changes things when you aren't going to have as much to work with in this draft because you can't trade the first overall pick. You're not going to have it now. Is what it is. But I feel like I've talked this to death, so we're going to call it here. I appreciate y'all watching. Want to shout out our channel members really quick. Premier Nasir 904, Mr. Dolphin, Scrubber Ducky 500, and Brian Foster. Appreciate y'all supporting me. Leave comments. Let me know what you think. And once again, I do not mind how you feel on this. I think it's going to be controversial, but I get both sides of it. Right? It's great to be a division rival. It also sucks to potentially lose out on what should be a generational player. So let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next video. So finally, go Jags.